Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inside Out with Sahas and Ali, where we talk about mental health, mindset, and personal growth. We have a very special guest for you today. His name is Sam Young. Most of you probably known him from Mammoth Keywords real estate community Cashflow Tribe, but some of you also might know him as the laptop lifestyle entrepreneur who is traveling basically around the world, working for whoever he wants on his laptop. Last time I checked, he was living in Mexico and working for a local real estate investor. So today's episode is very special, not just for me, but just for Sam as well, because he is going to dive deep into basically his past and who he was and how he became the Sam Young he is now, the man who changed his life completely and is basically living the dream he always wanted. And I do honestly believe you listeners will find a lot of value just from this episode. So stay tuned.
Sam, how are you, man?
Good, good. How's it going, guys?
Great.
Look,
Great to see you after a really long time, man.
yeah, it's been a while, man. I'm glad to connect, and man, big changes since the last time I seen you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you guys hear me okay? I'm just trying
Yep,
out a new little earbud here.
it's actually really good. It's perfect. I love the background. Uh, Classic, you know, in Mexico. I'm still assuming you're there, you know,
Yeah,
living that laptop lifestyle. Love it. I was telling Sahas about you, like about the new program you're launching. It sounds really exciting.
yeah. So I'm launching a brand called Habits for Men.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, I was I was thinking of like a way to make mental health education like cool. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like what's because it needs to be like really appealing. I think it needs to have like that mainstream appeal to it. So I was like, well, why don't I just start teaching guys like me just some healthy habits, some
Mm-hmm.
successful habits,
Mm-hmm.
so that way they can just start living the life, getting the freedom that they want. So I came up with a brand called Habits for Men, real nice
Okay.
and simple. And basically, we're going to be teaching people my formula on how I went from being broke, 25 years old, living in my parents' house, to
Mm-hmm.
being in a beautiful place like Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
San Diego. I lived in San Francisco this year, did that all during the pandemic. And
Wow.
Yeah.
just, it's all about freedom. It's not about the money,
Yeah.
it's not about anything fancy, although you can do some fancy things along the way. It's just about the
Mm-hmm.
freedom.
It is.
Absolutely,
And
man. So, where exactly are you in right now?
I'm in Playa del Carmen, Mexico.
Wow. And I can see the weather is like so beautiful, man.
But yeah, I still haven't made it back. And right now, like you guys are pretty locked down in Canada. So
And it's lockdown and it's a kind of a curfew here.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's really that's also part of the reason why I wanted to launch my personal brand, because all these habits I really did put them into place during the first lockdown in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And just basic like stuff. It is really the basics I find. And I lost 20 pounds of fat
Oh,
Yeah.
without a gym, just at home. And like you can see, my gym here is these water bottles over here, just filled with water. Because as I'm traveling, I can't bring a gym with me.
Yeah.
So it's doing push-ups. I think you can see the gazebo over there. I've been doing some
Oh,
pull-ups.
that's
It's
awesome.
hard as hell, but you get a couple in, and it's good just for that back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Peace.
so I'm not as strong as Sahas, but I it's good enough. You know what I mean? Like
It's a
I
start,
think,
like you do one, you do two next, and then you keep going up.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But how about things with you guys? I love what you created here.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
Like, we always wanted to do something. Like, I remember Ali also talked about that he wanted to start a podcast, but somewhere I didn't know what exactly you were planning on to starting with. But I had this thing in my mind that I've been you know been a bit of challenged myself through the mental health
Mm-hmm.
space when I was a kid, and just wanted to make an awareness through it. So I spoke to Ali about it, and we resonated a lot on the same concept. And I think it's more and more we discussed about it, and we realized that, you know what, let's make it
Yeah.
mental health somewhere around that area, because that resonates. And I think that's the kind of awareness we need to bring in to the audience, because not many people talk about it. I don't know how much is it, like, people are open about here in Canada, but in our native countries, like, it's a hush hush. My parents wouldn't believe if I tell them
Yeah.
that, you know, I want to go to a psychiatrist or I want somebody to talk with, and they would just say, oh, why don't you go to some hill station
Uh,
instead?
Yeah.
Or what do you want to buy?
go for a
Right?
walk, you know?
Go for a walk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Check it
we
out.
get that a lot.
And even though I do like going for walks, like they are great for mental health, but like I totally know what you mean. Like
Yeah.
it just, I also think just in the entrepreneur community too, like it's always like work hard and hustle, right?
Sahas and I decided, hey, listen, we're doing all these things, but sometimes there are days that really drag you down and you can't really do much. Like, it all starts here, right? If you're mentally not in the right place, no matter what, you can't really do much. Everything's going to hold you back. So I know Sahas had a really good story he was telling me about, like, growing up and like fighting, the stigma, and then how he went from like his family and came all over here and recovered, and now he's doing this. So I really like that. So we said, fuck it, let's just start a podcast and really be open about it. And then, like, the last time I was speaking to you, you this is, I think, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, you told me about you're switching from, like you said, from more marketing to mental health awareness and coaching. And like I was talking to Sas about this as well before we got on a couple of weeks ago. Is that, hey, listen, do you remember Sam? He's in the same circle, entrepreneur, same stuff, and guess what he's doing? He is doing exactly what we want to put out there. So it just made sense. Let's just bring him on because he has an interesting story, like the laptop lifestyle everyone wants,
Yeah.
and two, he is all about like physical and mental health, right? Like, you lost so much weight, you're traveling around, you're doing all these cool things. That would be a really cool piece to bring on. So we said, fuck it, let's just get him on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate it, guys. Because as I'm launching this brand, like it's all new to me too, right? And I've identified as like a marketer for like maybe like 3-4 years now. But it was all leading up to uh, doing something much more.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, as I learned like how to fix things in my life and change myself, change my mindset, get my shit together. Because there was part of the problem was just like mental health, but it also was part of just me just having bad habits. And that's why I
Right.
created habits for men. Um, but also just like my environment. So my environment was definitely different than Sahas's, but it probably gets you stuck in the same way. More, it's could be completely different environment, but you can still get stuck,
Absolutely.
and you're just like you don't know necessarily how to get out of it. So you just make a big change.
Right.
For me, everything really came full circle when I quit drinking, and that
Mm-hmm.
gave me so much more time. I'm no longer like laying in bed hungover on Sundays. I'm doing stuff.
Yeah,
I actually have too much time on my hands. I found
that's a
because,
good
and
thing.
I'm like I have to find some sort of hobby to pick up because I got to like keep myself entertained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then you start really looking at life differently once you do see like just what you don't know, I guess, what's possible. And it, it just so I wish I could like remember the day where everything just kind of clicked and I saw things differently. But I think it really came down to me getting to such like a low point, and then thank God I had like books because I didn't have mentors. I had books, and just realizing like, oh wait, this doesn't have to be like the low point of my story. This could be the turning point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's like everything's up from there. And then obviously it wasn't just like a steep like gradual increase. It was like boop 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 boop
Yeah.
boop.
Yeah.
Like more like climbing a mountain,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or in context, driving on the roads in Mexico, lots of potholes, lots of people
Yeah.
cutting you off. But you still get to the you can still get to the destination. You just got to keep going.
When,
Um,
when did you actually start doing this kind of a lifestyle that you're into right now?
so I quit my position at Cashflow Tribe in uh middle of June, I think it was.
Okay.
It goes June then July, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I always get it mixed up because I just wanted to make
I
sure
thought,
that
I thought you
Right.
had a different calendar in Mexico, so that's why you were.
yeah the Mayan calendar actually ended here, so there's no more time
There's no,
anymore.
there's no calendar.
This never happened.
So and that all started with having like a very honest conversation with Matt and Ben, and just telling them it was leading up to it. So I think I made the decision about 30 days before that, and I spent 30 days thinking about it. But it was like the pandemic hit, and I was like, oh my God, like we are so not in control of anything in our life. All of this external stuff we're not in control of. So I really started digging deeper for answers and realizing that, oh, we are 100% in control of our internal self, in our internal reality. So I started exploring that more, and I had my answer written on my wall. I had my goals written on my wall. So I'd be grinding it out 14, 16 hours a day, which I was loving what I was doing. Like I loved my job. I was in the dopest environment ever. I didn't care too much about real estate, but I cared about helping people. And I could like, we were part of one of those movements where people were literally getting results like fast, like even you, Sahas, right? The first boot camp that you came to, you got a result within just on the bus, you know. It
Absolutely.
like you're like Ben said something to you, and like your whole life changed after that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was that awareness, and I love seeing that, and it's hard not to be a part of something when you can like see those changes. For example, a lot of people donate money to charity and they get discouraged because they don't really see where that money goes. So with this, a cash flow tribe, um, we actually would have people come and trust us, and they would leave with a result. They would get what they paid for and so much more, and you could see it on their face, and that was like so cool. Um, but I'm looking at my goals, and I'm realizing, shit, I'm like so close, but also so far. So right on the top of my list was I wanted to help 1 million children, and I'm helping people, I'm helping adults, but I'm not helping children. And I'm stuck in a position, not stuck, of course, but I'm in a position and in a path where I don't know when I'll actually get around to doing that, right? Um, so I had to be honest with myself, and knowing that the pandemic has completely changed the world. And then we had Stefan Arniel pass away
Oh
out
yeah.
of nowhere. Out of nowhere. It reminded me um, of kind of my beliefs, which is memento mori, if you guys ever heard that. And it more or less says like, um, you know, you could lead. I guess there's many different ways to interpret it, but it's kind of having like a love of death, because you're once you're aware that you can die and leave this place at anytime, like what are you gonna do about it, right?
Yeah.
So like I have this, it's called a more fat tea on my necklace here, and the quote on the back is not merely to bear what is necessary but to love it, and it's like having a love of fate. So I'm like, okay, um Stefan just passed away like out of nowhere, and it's super sad. And then Matt does it gave us a talk with our team there, um, talking about some of the life advice that Stefan gave to Matt. And Stefan said to Matt, what the fuck do you actually want out of your life? And I'm like sitting there listening to that call because we're on Zoom. It's COVID times. I'm looking at my goals on the wall. I'm like, fuck, I'm so close, but I'm not doing what I want in my life. So I thought about it really hard because it was just one of those life-changing experiences that I was in, and I was so fucking grateful for everything. But I knew ultimately, I'm kind of living a lie to like myself and everyone else, and it's obvious because I'm like proud of these goals on my wall. But um, are these just goals that I think are cool to chat about with my friends and show people, or are these things that I'm actively going to go and pursue? And all three of us on this call, we all believe in taking action. So um, it was like I was so nervous having that conversation. I didn't know how it was gonna go. I felt like honestly like kind of like a traitor at that point, right? But I knew just honesty was the key. Having the courage to be disliked was the key. And it actually went a lot better than I thought. Way better than I thought.
It always does.
Yeah, and I just knew like it would all work out no matter what. And that, I think that's like a very powerful like mental health tip is think of all the shit that you went through in your past, and you've made it. You've been okay no matter what. Um, so sorry about the dogs in the background there, guys.
No worries. It's all good.
I can put them inside real
No,
quick here, but
it gives it a little authentic feel that you're really
yeah.
in Mexico. All good.
Yeah, so basically um I quit, and the same day I quit, I had what would be my next client of this business I didn't know I would start reach out to me and just ask me a little bit of questions for help. Um, and I didn't realize he'd become a client. I just ended up hopping on a call with him uh, to see what he needed help with, and then I ended up um, working with him pretty much exclusively. And since the time I quit my job, um, I found myself hopping on a plane, leaving all my shit behind in Canada in 2 weeks. So that's like letting my family know that I was moving to a different country in the middle of the pandemic, starting a consulting business that I was really confident that I could help, and we did some really cool stuff. Understanding the expenses that in San Diego were so much more, and the reason I was moving to San Diego was there's an opportunity to launch a charity to help kids. And if there wasn't even more of a sign that I needed that I was on the right page, that client, he was vacationing in San Diego for the 4th of July, right when I was going to get there. So I actually got to meet him in person. So it was like a really scary experience and had to take a leap of faith. But as soon as I did, I started looking for evidence. Like, is this the right decision? And sure enough, I found it, right? I was at that point in my life where I had the right mindset to know that no matter what I did, it'd all be okay. And that even going a step further, that I'm going to look for reasons around me that it's all going to work out. And then next thing you know, I'm in San Diego, and I stayed there for 3 months. And then basically we weren't tied down to a lease. So the lockdown was starting to ramp up more in California, and we just started to travel. So we ended up going north of LA to a place called Big Bear Lake, stayed there for a few weeks, then went to San Francisco, lived there for 2-3 months, and then things in San Francisco were getting like really tough. That was really hard. I love that city, and it was an amazing experience, but you can really see the effects of COVID on the economy there at like it was just so hard to like understand just the effects so quickly. and understanding it's probably not going to get better for a few years there financially. And the winter was coming. I moved away from Canada because I don't like the winters too.
Mm-hmm.
So we've looked at Mexico and flew down here in start of December to escape the winter and just get a place with a bit of a backyard, because as you can hear, we got dogs. And we just wanted like a good space for them to run around here.
Mm-hmm.
And funny thing is, the next client who I'm going to be working with to do some really cool life-changing events with just happened to be vacation in Mexico around the same time that
Nice.
we be coming down. So it's just been like such a crazy journey, such a crazy experience that I could never imagine it, the dominoes just kind of tipping this way and it all playing out how it did.
Right.
But it taught me a lot.
Right, and it seems like it's because you positioned yourself mentally and physically to be in a place, whether you knew it or not, and you were basically the tipping point of the domino. You were the one that pushed it, but you had to be there. Was there any time you think, maybe in your journey with Mammy Keewer before that you kind of knew you weren't ready, but all of a sudden when you left Mammy Keewer's the click, you instantly knew, this is it, I'm ready, this is what I've been training for?
Yeah, there was, well, I had to make it work at that point, because you don't just like essentially go from like feeling like a traitor and not having to go make it worth something. Like I can't just leave everybody behind, all these wonderful people that I met, like Sahas. Even though like, and then that's probably in itself like a limiting belief too, like thinking I'm letting these people down. But I decided that the next part of my life, I got to make it worth it, because I'm leaving something. So it was kind of like, in a sense, like money was fine at that point, but it was still like feast or famine in my, it meant more than money at that point. It's
Right.
like you have to go do something.
Yeah, the opportunity cost was just massive in your case.
But were you
Yeah.
just like you always wanted to touch lives, make an impact, that you want to see things happening, moving around wherever, whatever environment that you were in, or you were a different Sam back in the day? How about what kind of a person were you when you were in college? What kind of a
Oh,
mindset were you in?
oh man, like let's get the record straight. I'm still just like a person, just like anybody else. I'm not, nobody's special, but we're all powerful. You just got to realize it. So it took me a minute to realize that. Back in the day, I did most of my time I spent partying, drinking with my friends. You know, I was just outside of the city in Canada, so that's what you do. We started drinking around 15, and then basically it was just a lot of fun, and that's what you do. And then as I finished high school, I ended up not going to school right away, trying different things and working, and everything, like life kind of seemed like easy, because I didn't honestly just have a lot going for me, but hard at the same time, because I didn't really feel like I could succeed anywhere or really do the things that I wanted to. I didn't know a lot, but I did realize a lot of the problems I was focusing on were just about myself. So as I learned over the years, when you start focusing on problems bigger than just yourself, outside of your world, your problems seem a lot easier. And you start hearing other people's stories, and you're like, wow, I actually got pretty good.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that what I have or the stuff I'm going through isn't valid and that I should pay attention to.
Right.
It just means if I start helping out in other areas, life's even better. And before when I did have glimpses of that Sahas by going to a camp and doing what was called a CEO program, as a leadership program, and I thrived in it because I got to step up and be a leader, and I wasn't just worrying about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I grew up and started becoming like a very testosterone driven male who liked to party, I only worried about like my self image, and all that stuff more or less. So when I realized after years of doing that, till around like 24, 25, um, it really just started making sense. I'm like, oh, like I can't drink more and more and more and more and more and more and feel better about myself. I can't party, 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 and have better experiences. You're kind of crossing everything off the list already. It's not getting better. It's actually getting worse. I'm actually starting to get 2-day hangovers now instead of being able waking up and feeling fine the next day. I'm actually like starting to lose touch with some of my friends and family members just because I'm not there. I'm like, oh, holy shit, my niece is 7 years old now.
Yeah.
I thought she was just born yesterday.
Yeah.
You start realizing that um, you're not really doing much. Being stuck in just worrying about yourself, and I I re I realized that I look back. I'm like, okay, when was a point in my life uh, when things were like really good and I was the happiest? And I look back at that experience of where I was in a leadership role, and I was like, oh, I guess I like should probably start my own business. Like a CEO is
Mm-hmm.
like an entrepreneur, and this is when I was just like a naive person, so I didn't know much about business at all. So I ended up starting after work. I would hustle hard, just trying to learn a side hustle. So I remember at one point in time, I created a thing called Recipes for the Boys, and it was going to be a website providing recipes, game day recipes for the boys. And it ended up not working, mostly because um, I ended up realizing I had like a fear of failure.
Mm.
So pretty much all these different things I would try, I would take them just to the point where I could give up before it would get serious and I'd like embarrass myself, right? Um, so I eventually like identified that from just trying a bunch of different things, being more honest with myself. Um, and then I think it, it nothing really did change for the most part lifestyle wise, um, until I put myself into a position where I had to, because I was still working a full-time job while I was trying to do all these things, and I would do them on the weekends too. But I had a source of income, so it wasn't until I said I'm not going back to my job. I got to make it work. I got to make my business work. That I really just stuck to doing one thing, and that was marketing. And then when I stuck to doing that one thing, um, I I had no other option really to go all in on that, right? And then that eventually led me to finding Matt and the team. And once I joined the team, I learned a ton from Matt and just the guys in that environment. And I really, for the most part, it really showed me that we can create our reality. You just got to really want it. You got to want enough where you're going to put in the work and stick with it. I grew a lot of confidence in that. So right when I was 26, I 25, 26, I was getting into meditation and reading a lot of like books on just psychology and how our brain works. And
Mm-hmm.
I learned that our brain's basically like a big circuit board with neural pathways, and that you can rewire these things. So I figured, why don't I try rewiring some of these stuff, some of these things up here? That point of view made it a lot easier for me to understand. And then when I was learning meditation, I was also learning about like manifestation, which ended up really changing things for me and just my whole outlook of life. Um, it really showed me that like happiness is my choice, and I can just be happy just because I want to. Nothing really changed in my life from 25 to about 26 or 24 to 26, other than just my attitude. It made a
Mhm.
hell of a difference. Um, it took a while to see the benefits of that, but it really did. And for example, I remember trying to set up Facebook ads for a client, and I logged in on my computer. I'm like, I'm going to get these ads launched. They're going to be sweet. And I go in, and Facebook's business manager, if anybody's set up Facebook ads before, no, it's glitchy as hell. No, I couldn't log in, and we're already running money to a campaign. I'm like, I was about to like lose my shit, because it was like the first time I really had a paying client, and they're paying money, spending money.
Mhm.
And I realized, I'm like, you know what? There's nothing I can do about this. I'm not in control of Facebook. I wish it'd be pretty sweet, but I can't do anything. I can't control this. I got to go to the gym today anyway. So why don't I just go to the gym now? And if I come back, maybe I'll be better. Um, so off to the gym I go, and I walk in the gym, and I see Peter drinking at a water fountain. And the reason why I knew Peter is because a few of my friends, who I met in the previous month by going to neurohacking seminars, because I just started following a passion and getting involved in a community that I was passionate about, telling me about this Hungarian experiment guy. And I'm like, I checked out his YouTube stuff, and you can recognize Peter. He's a very identifiable guy.
Right.
And I saw him at the water fountain. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy at the gym to bug someone with headphones on, but I'm going to take this as a sign that I got to say hello. So I just said hi quickly, said I'm like a fan of what you're doing. It's really cool to see someone in this community to do what you do. Um, and then we just swapped Instagram because I didn't want to bug him too much. And then he saw that I was doing some real estate marketing. And then next thing you know, they invited me over to the mansion, and I'm having a conversation with Matt and Peter about how I can help them launch a Airbnb course.
Mhm.
Um, and then, of course, when I did go back home, the business manager was working again. And I guess that was just another experience that did teach me a lot of just starting to see the evidence of when I was putting myself out there to become a different person. I was getting that feedback from what I call the universe. Like a lot of people might use a different term for that, but I just really ran with it.
Mhm.
Wow, that kind of speaks volumes when it comes to the energy you put out is the energy you get back in, sometimes tenfold. And
Mm-hmm.
just like avoiding the like you said, you went out because you couldn't get something done on Facebook. You avoided that negative space, went out, you refreshed yourself, and things instantly worked out for you. I find that happens so many times with so many people. Is that, oh, I can't figure this out. I'll just go for a walk. Comes back, everything's fine. It's
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. We can call it the universe. We can call it like law of attraction, but I've noticed it happen, especially if you're in the right mindset. It just automatically kind of manifests itself over and over again.
Yeah, I think it's letting go, just
Mm-hmm.
letting go of the outcome. Because like I said earlier, we're not really in control of our external reality, the external world,
Mm-hmm.
but we are in control of the internal world. So uh, sometimes it's just like you can try so hard to make something to work, but at the end of the day, maybe it's not working because it's a sign that you're supposed to take a step back from it.
Right.
Maybe it's you're getting resistance because it's not 100% right for you. And that's actually
Mm-hmm.
why like I did quit marketing, just because I realized just the lifestyle I wanted, and uh, the lifestyle of just being a marketer. I was just like, I think I'm good at it, but I don't think I'm like the most passionate about it. Um, so I was like, well, what am I passionate about? In just a work wise, I'm like, I love, I love like leading people. So with Cashflow Tribe, it was the first time I had to pass off the marketing hat to somebody else. And it was, we're a startup company, so you're always wearing different hats almost every
Yeah.
different day. But I gotta be there for a team. So when Mark was having a bad day, uh, he would talk to me, and I got to talk to Mark. It's like, what can I teach Mark? And it's like, not much. Mark already knows everything he needs to know. He just needs to know that someone gives a shit about him.
Yeah.
And I like that job. I love that job. And the other thing would be like, well, Mark's going to get the job done no matter what. How can I help him? I can help him be a bit more organized so his life isn't so chaotic. So I realized that when I'm in a marketing position, what I didn't really like about it was I'm the implementer. I'm doing all the work. I'm spending most of my days alone. Uh, and yeah, I talk to the team here and there when I was wearing that hat, but I really need to spend more of my time just being with other people and being there for them. Because like I said a bit earlier, it's like when I was like worrying about like all my problems and all my stuff, it just wasn't, just things weren't working out for me. But when I started thinking in like about other people's problems and how I can be like a part of that and help them, things started working out really well. So it really just being honest with myself, being like, I guess like the pattern I learned over this year is like I'm always getting like so close to like what I actually want and what I actually want to do. And then I'm like, oh wait, I need to be a bit more aware of what I'm doing here, learn something that I'm still like not 100% there. So learning as I go, making adjustments as I go, living a more honest life with myself and other people. So, um, but again, as soon as we made that chance, another thing opened up
Yeah.
because I'm choosing to look for the evidence that everything's going to be okay. Something's going to come out of it. And so far, it always does.
I like that. I like that. Look for evidence around your environment if this is happening in your favor or not. Like Sahas and I were talking last night. Sometimes follow your gut feeling.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised how many times that's like it leads you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do have to make a decision at the end of the day. Like the worst thing to do is like I forget the term, but it's just like never basically making a decision. Like
Inaction is worse than any kind of action is way better. Any imperfect action is better than any kind of inaction.
Right. And like in the book Think and Grow Rich, how does it go exactly? It's basically, for those that don't know Think and Grow Rich, it's a book that's been written like a long time ago, where Napoleon Hill basically interviewed all there you go, right there. Interviewed all like the very successful wealthiest people in the world to try to find patterns of what they're doing, patterns in their habits. And he realized that these people, they make decisions quickly and they rarely change their mind. And I definitely resonate with that.
Absolutely. And so Sam, what I could feel that you've really got things organized in your life right now, right? Like it feels like as if there's no chaos anymore in your life, or is it still there? Or
Oh, there's
do you-
chaos every day.
okay, yeah,
But
just wanted
that's
that's
sorry.
the reason why I wanted to touch on that is because a lot of people think that, when they look at somebody and they think, oh my God, I want this life because it feels so simple. It feels like, they have actually figured it out how to lead it. But they don't realize that every day is a fight. Every day is something or the other. You cannot control the outcome, like you said, right? You cannot control the environment around you, but you can control yourself. And for that, you need to be in control every single day. So, like you saying, taking that moment off and saying that, what, business manager is not working, I might as well go to the gym and hit it and come back again and see. Or else you could just be frustrated about it and say that, what, this has even screwed my plans to go to the gym anymore. I don't want to even do that. So now you're letting that resistance take over you. You're letting that so like what Ali and I, we were talking about it yesterday, was like there are two sides of the brain, right? One is not the brain, one is the gut feeling, which sometimes gets confused with the resistance inside your mind. And sometimes they say that sometimes the resistance say that you don't do that. It is scary, you will risk in your life and you will get burned. That is like something which is stopping you from taking an action. But the gut feeling is that, what, it's a feeling, that you can do it, but you know that it is going to burn you because it is not a right move. And you somewhere know the difference, that this is not the right move and this is the right or wrong move. And I think differentiating that at the moment when that happens is the real understanding of the chaos itself, which happens all around you.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Um, and I think that can be tough though too,
Okay.
because if you're a person like who doesn't take a lot of action, it might be hard. Like some people overcompensate by just taking action on everything, right? So but that can get you into trouble too, like you said, Sahas, because then you might get out of touch with your gut feeling.
Yeah.
Um, so I think at that point, before taking a lot of action, like if you need to take action, you got to do it, but try to figure out like your core values along the way, and you might only be able to figure those out by taking lots of action. So um, you usually, like, I guess maybe the framework would be is you got to make a decision, and then you have a gut feeling of what decision you should make, um, and then I think at that point too, you got to like, if you got to understand, is this like a, maybe I shouldn't do this option because it's my gut feeling, but let's see if it's just because I'm afraid. And then if you have like some a basic like core values laid out, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. But it could be like, is this like ethical? Is this like alignment with my passion? Is this, you know, do I think, like, is this going to be important to me, or not? Then it kind of helps you make a little bit more of a choice if you're not like as personally developed to 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 understand, um, if you're just like being a scaredy cat or not.
Right.
Is the way I put it. Because I understand that from a different perspective, because I used to be a DJ, and I could I could record an amazing DJ mix when nobody was there. But then I remember the first time being in a like a big club, and there's like 200 people there, and I'm not drinking any alcohol because at that point, because I was like, I can't screw it up. But it almost would have been good to have a drink to take the edge off. Um, but at that point in time, I remember like having the gut feeling like, oh, I gotta like go do this. But I chickened out because and my friend who is partnering DJ with me, he did most of the mixing. Um, and then I hit the microphone up and was hyping up the crowd a bit more. And then what I realized though too was, like my hands are like shaking. I was so nervous. But once I got on the mic and I felt more comfortable, I was like, oh, I really should hop on the decks and mix a few songs, and I did. But that was just an example where like I didn't go with my gut feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and I wish I did. And if I realized that at that time, like, oh, you know what, this is really important to me. This is my one of my passions, and I should just go for it no matter what. And if I fuck it up, well, probably 3 months down the road, nobody's gonna remember. I might, but nobody
Yeah.
really. Like nothing bad's gonna happen. I wish I knew that, and was like personally developed enough at that point in time to be able to differentiate that stuff. Because if I went with my gut, I would have had a better experience. And then a month down the road, I had another opportunity to DJ in a club, and I did go with my gut, and I killed it.
Nice.
So the owner of the club came up and said that was an amazing set. Like, go buy yourself a drink on me. And it was like I wasn't like a big DJ or anything. I actually was just opening, and nobody was
Mhm.
there yet. And everybody who was there was like coming up to me like, "What song is that?" and all this stuff. And it really did show me exactly what you said there, Sahas.
Yeah.
You know, you touched upon something really interesting, and it's passion. So I find that sometimes that, especially modern society, I see that a lot is that people are stressed out. There's a lot of mental health issues. There's a lot of anxiety, depression, and it's because they're not following a certain what they should be, or like a passion, or they're interested in. You know, I know it's great to have a job, have been in corporate culture, you know, security, all the benefits. It's amazing, but most of the time it feels like it's forced because either you're told this is what's normal, or you have, let's say, a
Also, it's like
mortgage or a
more of a
family.
performance pressure, also, right? Like
Exactly.
when everybody around you, you think that everybody is doing something, and what am I doing with my life? And I mean, that is also where things
Right.
go.
And for some reason, we all think that, oh, I have to have a corporate level C-suite job to be something in my life, right? Which is not the case at all. Passion is something really interesting. I find is that it's so hard to find in life. What are you passionate about? But I do know that the ones I've spoken to, the moment they do find their passion is the moment they're reborn again, as they describe it. They're living their life finally to their own terms. Um, I'm still on the road finding my passion. I know Sahas is like, I think Sahas, you did find your passion in a way, right? You're still kind of up there, but what would you say to anyone who is on that journey right now for self-discovery, what their passions are, and what should they do?
That's a great question. It, I honestly, I don't believe that you have to work a job that's fully in alignment with your passion. I just believe that at one point during your day, you should work on that passion or put the practice in. So, um, say, for example, for me, I always just try for at least 5 minutes a day, work on something that I'm passionate about, even if my job for that day is something I hate, even if it's like the worst day ever. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, that's music. So I always try to do something music related in that day. And another one of my passions is spirituality. So I do that first thing in the morning. I'll meditate in the morning, and then I'll do a quick workout. And then before I start the day, I do something I'm passionate about. So it'll be reading, you know, for 5 minutes, like a book on spirituality. Or
Mm-hmm.
if I'm like really not feeling like in the zone. So like there's different levels of passion. Like I think I'm maybe about equal on as passionate about spirituality as I am about music,
Mm-hmm.
but I can do music a lot longer. I could sit there all day and make a song. Um, so if I'm not feeling like super motivated that day, I'll work on more music. And why I do that in the morning before I go and jump into any other work is that's when I'm living the happiest version of my life. That's when I'm the happiest. I get in like a flow state. Anything that I might have had anxiety about, hopefully I squash that during my meditation, but a lot of times I don't. But a lot of times it gets my mind off of that just when I'm working on my passion. Um, but it could also just be a hobby, you know,
Mm.
like what do you like to do? Um, like Sahas, I don't know if working out like a hobby for you, or you just like doing it because of the physical and mental benefits.
Yeah.
But some sort of hobby probably is close to what you are passionate about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've also tried to make a business out of music, and it stole that passion away.
Right.
So now I call like, then I got into for years saying, oh, I'm like music's a hobby, because I didn't want people to think I'm passionate about it and be like, well, why don't you go pursue it? Um, so I think I hope I didn't wander off too far from the original question.
No, that's nailed it
Um,
actually.
Yeah.
but
And
where the important thing I find with that, doing it daily, is a lot of us, we get stuck in like a fight or flight mode.
mm-hmm.
And when that happens, and then this isn't anything I've discovered myself, this is lots of scientists have uh, talked about this, but when your brain's in fight or flight mode, the logical side of your brain actually shuts off, so you can't like make logical decisions. So it's really hard to change your life or really do much if you can't think logically, right? And that's why I think that's why working on problems beyond uh, just my own problems might have turned that logical thinking back on, because I'm not like focused on just my world. But when we're doing a hobby or something you're passionate about, so maybe it's like painting for like an hour, you're in that flow state. It doesn't take long for that logical side of your brain to get back. The brain actually like flows, the blood actually like flows out of that side of your brain, and it takes about 90 seconds for it to get back. And you might not realize it's back until like 20 minutes until it actually is back. But that's what I really like about just doing that, what I'm passionate about in the morning. Because I guess circling back to a little bit what Sahas says, like, it is a battle every day. You probably will have nobody's stress free. Nobody doesn't have fears or anxieties. If anything, there's a lot of that going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get a lot of that as we go on social media, or other people are going to put their fears and anxieties on you. So just working on something that I'm passionate about, you could call it a hobby,
Mm-hmm.
is so just important to what I've been able to do and how I love my life, doing it in the morning, because it shuts off it gets me in that flow state where it turns back on my logical thinking brain. And then I'm also just like super pumped, like I'll have the biggest smile on my face, um,
Mm-hmm.
just making like random music or
Mhm.
reading a book about spirituality. um, for people who are like looking for their passion, just to be super clear on the answer, I'd probably just start with what you're interested in and what are your hobbies. So another thing for me too was I gave my friend a piece of dating advice, because he was sick and tired of finding girls on Tinder and wondering why the dates don't work out. I was like, well, you like going to bands, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, just go do a concert you're into, even if your friends don't want to go. You'll have fun, but I guarantee like the people you'll meet there, you're gonna like resonate with them. They're gonna go see the same band that you think's cool. It's a great way
Mm-hmm.
to meet like-minded people around a hobby or an interest or a passion. Um, and like I would do that too. I'd go to like late night DJ events, not even drink, just because none of my friends were really interested in house music. But I was passionate about it, and I made some cool friends that way too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to find your passion no matter what. Like, it doesn't have to be like you said that, absolutely correct, that once you start monetizing on some certain things, and sometimes it doesn't feel like it's actually going to be rewarding as much as if it was just a hobby. And like for me, fitness is something that is so much important to me. It's not a hobby, it's like more of a, it's like a meditation for me. It's like a discipline,
Yeah.
right? So I know that if I have to perform, I need to work out, and it just brings in the kind of a discipline inside your mental side of the things, also physical side of the things also. So I think fitness has really helped me out a lot in achieving whatever goals that I have, and just bringing the discipline itself towards life, right? And
Hmm.
I would say that, like, if I'm really passionate, I'm not as much as passionate I used to be for like playing music, like guitar. Uh, Also because that I just can't find any more time for it, because most of my time is utilized into something that I also like. Like I really love what I do. Like I do. So for me, marketing is just a tool, right? It's just a way to talk to people, tell the story, and the most important factor is that create something which matters. And marketing is something which really helps me to tell that story. So I'm really passionate about that. How can I just create that story? How can I just
Yeah.
put it in out there so that people who really get interested resonate with it and impact them in such a way that, it makes their lives better. So that's what I feel that I am passionate about. And yeah, I'm able to monetize through that. And but that is not my core interest. I mean, obviously you need to have basic necessity. You have to have money, you have to have certain financial things going on, and I think that is automatically a byproduct of whatever you do. So your your aim in life is not, doesn't have to be, your goal doesn't have to be that I want to earn $5 million in your life, or $2 million in your life. The goal has to be a little bigger, deeper, and ask more questions to yourself, like, why do you really want to do that? What is the why behind it? I don't know whether you've read it or not. It's by Dean Graziosi, Seven Layers of Whys. I would say you go fucking 14 levels of whys in understanding why are you doing what you're doing, because you will not realize the kind of dormant hidden doors that you'd be opening, and why, and it will matter so much what you're doing at that moment, and that will just create a different story altogether out in the market.
Yeah. That's so true. Because I think you really did open like a door to a cool conversation there. It's marketing is just a tool, but you know like what you're passionate about, and you're using marketing as that tool to do it. Um, and music at one point in time might have been like that source to do it in your life. And when I was working the same job, the job that I hated, I complained about it every single day. When I started becoming more passionate about spirituality, meditation, learning how thoughts are just things, that I don't have to react to these things that pop into my head. I can't control these things that pop into my head, but I
Mm,
can change how I react to them. I actually started using my job turned from something I hated to something I liked doing, not loving doing, because I got a lot of practice. There was a lot of bullshit that came my way in that day, and it gave me time to put what I was learning into practice.
right.
So when somebody yelled at me for doing something wrong that wasn't my fault, I could just be like, okay, so uh, I take responsibility for that. What can I do to fix it so we can move on and get the job done? And then I saw that rubbing off on my colleagues. They're like, oh shit, like he's not getting a reaction from when we're yelling at him.
Mhm.
So I guess we're just gonna have to move on and get back to work. And eventually we started like laughing off problems. Um, and that was like, yeah, my job wasn't my passion, but I got to practice it each day. So that's cool that you found like my now that job was like more of a tool to practice my passion. So when I'm done working, I'd learn about it, and then I'd have something useful to help my day go better.
Yes.
Um, so that's cool that you found that too with marketing as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's awesome. Sam, thanks again for all the time you put in. Before we close the podcast, I do want to ask one last question. Um, well, there's two questions, but they're in the same part. One is anyone who is struggling right now, going through their dark phase. Let's talk about something similar you went through. What would be some of the things you tell them right now as a coach? Because I know you coached me through a lot of hard stuff, and I know a lot of people can get value from some of the words you would say.
Mm-hmm. I would say, very simply, you can do whatever you want in your life. You can feel however you want. It is your choice. If you want to feel happy, that's up to you. That's a decision. As unlikely as it seems, it is a decision that you can feel. Um, I said it earlier in this podcast, nobody's special, but we all are powerful. You just really need to understand just how powerful you actually are.
Exactly.
So if you're struggling right now, um, whatever you're struggling in, you will get through it. Realize in your past, different times where were struggling, and realize where you are now. Maybe 2 years ago, um, for me, I've had some of my best friends pass away. I didn't know how I was going to get through that. Nobody gives you a roadmap when your best friend passes away. Says this is what you do. Um, and for most part, I didn't have anything to do after that. there is no answer. But now I can look back at that experience and say, I had that experience, and as fortunate as it was, I did get through it. It did move on. I did find a way to be happy anyways, and it really was um, not letting the things that happen to you or the environment, as unfair and tragic as they might be, succumb you, because you are you. You just gotta choose to be you, no
That
matter
is
what.
so true. That is so true. Sahas, do you have any last questions?
No, I think one last question that what I wanted to ask you, like you talked a little bit about habits for men. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So could you tell a little more about it? Like what is it about? What kind of basic habits you're talking about that it entails?
Yeah, absolutely. So, habits for men is basically my it's my brand of me teaching the formula of basically the healthy habits that I put in place in my life that took me from being broke and in my parents' house up until I was 25 years old. And being able to get that freedom back in my life, and succeed as a digital nomad. Um, and I think the cool thing is, like, when I left Canada, nobody said I could fly anywhere. I hopped on a plane and left. So you really are in charge of your life. And that is like a message that I want deep rooted in the brand and in the program behind that. But it is going to be starting with the 5 healthy habits. So the habits I'm going to be teaching in there that we touch on a lot here is meditation, working out, and then fasting, sleep, and passion. So these are 5 daily habits that I do. And I've actually put them into a tracker called the Habit Tracker. And the goal is to not be perfect. It's not like 75-day hard, where it's like 75 days hard. 75-day hard is really hard. And if you got a lot going on, it's probably not practical. But with this, it's just encouraging you to go meditate for 5 minutes a day in your morning, because your brain is most susceptible to change in the first 10 minutes of your day. So I want people to just go give it a try for 5 minutes. And then after that, I want you to go work out for 5 minutes. I don't want you to go do a big workout. I just want you to get moving, get that blood flow going, because you'll feel good about it. You're not going to be as jacked as Sahas. But when you do want to, you should probably make friends with him and go to the gym with him too. But it's just encouraging that little bit of working out, because Sahas can agree with this, and so can you, Ali. It does boost your mood. But I also see it as just like a little bit of a physical challenge in the morning. It's like, I like pick this up and I put it back down a few times and I did it, and that feels good. So it's like kind of getting like a little win in. And then the next thing I I recommend doing is just 5 minutes, maybe even when you're having your morning coffee, doing something you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be like rocking out on the guitar, waking up your neighbors in the morning, but maybe it's just like reading a book about like Jimi Hendrix. For
Right.
me, in the morning, it looks like reading a book by Eckhart Tolle, The New Earth,
Hmm.
currently, and I'll read. Honestly, like I'm a slow reader, so 5 minutes for me is like 3.5 pages. So I'll just that's it, like nothing too crazy. And then fasting, I found fasting really great and beneficial for my life, because the science will say, um, when you're eating all the time, your body isn't taking time. It's focused, spending all that energy digesting that food, spending your energy just digesting food. But when you're
Right.
not, and all that food's digested, your body's like, okay, what can we fix in your body? And it starts like healing the body. I just do it because I love eating a lot and I love having big meals, especially with all the
Right.
tacos here in Mexico. So I usually save it for one meal and I can just eat a big epic meal, and I won't go over my daily calories unless I'm like at the Cheesecake Factory just shoveling it in, um,
Yeah.
which it's just the honest truth. Um, and then it also saves a lot of time. So um, I recommend, if you're new to intermittent fasting, just try a 16-hour fast. So um, cut off eating at 8 p.m. and then eat again at noon. And it'll be a lot
Hmm.
easier than you think. And then that frees up time to, you know, get that 5 minute workout in, get that 5 minute meditation in, get
Hmm.
that 5 minutes in that you're passionate about. You
Right.
get a lot of time back. And then the other thing is sleep. Get 8 hours of sleep no matter what. I don't care who you are or how much lack of sleep you think you can function on. Your body, your body doesn't care. There was one study showing that, I think it was when a daylight saving time goes ahead an hour and everyone gets an extra hour of sleep, there's like certain like serious health problems that decrease by 25% across the board. And then when
Wow.
everybody loses an hour of sleep, uh, there's like a 25% increase in serious
Hmm.
health problems for that day. So that told me just like, go get your sleep no
Yeah.
matter what, you owe it to yourself. And then for guys, so it's habits for men. Um, you know, definitely here in Mexico, you see these signs for like HGH. So you can go in the store and get HGH, but your body's also going to produce that stuff, guys. You don't need to go take steroids. You just got to sleep more,
Right.
and that boosts your HGH. So that starts repairing your body a bit more. That's going to help you get the bigger muscles that you want when you're putting in a little bit of the workout. It's
Hmm.
going to increase your testosterone. It's going to increase your sex drive because as guys, like that's important. um, so those were like the 5 habits that I've seen other successful people do, um, that I started doing for myself. And that's essentially what I've learned over since in January when I quit drinking, needed something to do. So I just went hard in those 5 habits. And I believe encouraging people with habits for men to just start on those 5 ones, is what we're going to be, um, that'll be what we're leading off of the brand. And
Hmm.
then we have this tracker, um, that I'll send it to you guys after this so you guys can take a peek. But
Hmm.
it's just very simple. I learned a lot about tracking as in my time in Cashflow Tribe. Just, do you do it today? Okay, cool. Put a green. And if you didn't do it today, put a red. Ben actually showed me that we're doing something completely. It was putting out daily content, so I turned it into a daily tracker for healthy habits for me.
Hmm.
And then it takes 21 days to form a new habit, because remember we got a circuit board up here, so
Right.
we're gonna rearrange the wires. Some are like really in there, some are a little easier to rearrange. But
Hmm.
if you do it daily consistently, um, then it is going to start to rewire up there.
Do you have a
And then
website?
to
Any website that you have right now?
habitsformen.com.
Okay.
So you can actually go on there right now and you can download that tracker.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
then what that will also give you a few insights into the healthy habits.
Perfect.
And then just one last thing that we're going to be doing is experimenting with what I'm calling like a habit hypnosis. So a lot of
Interesting.
people will have like a goal card, or they'll write down their goals every day. So I'm taking it a step further, where last year, I while I slept, I listened to affirmations. So it'd be like, I'm gonna make a lot of money, I'm gonna live a life of purpose, very generic. So with my audio engineering background, I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if we could take like kind of like the formula, like in Think and Grow Rich and a few other things, record that so it's very specific to, that's my Canadian accent coming out, to my goals and my wants, and then I record that audio track, and then I just listen to a very highly personalized custom affirmations. So I'm going to be experimenting with that, and I've created one for my own, and I'm happy to make those for other people to I do a little test pilot too, but 95% of our decisions are controlled by our subconscious. 5% of our decision making is done by our consciousness. So I was like, all right, when I'm sleeping, I'm gonna rewire this subconscious too with
Yeah.
stuff that I want.
This is interesting.
Awesome.
This is interesting.
So it's a new brand. So right now I just got the tracker up there, and that will give you guys some more information. And I'm just really happy to get this thing launched and growing. And
Yeah, sounds
see
exciting.
it
It sounds
grow.
very powerful. I think that's going to be very
Awesome.
valuable. So, Sam, thanks again for coming on. We do really appreciate your time, dude. This is some really good information that you just kind of spatball at us, and we're all about that. You know, when we're having a genuine conversation, a lot of things come up, and this is really something I resonated with, and I do want to thank you for bringing all that up.